The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as the last of the 12 elder species representatives took their seats. The curved walls glowed with a soft blue light that highlighted the worried faces of the gathered aliens. This was not a regular meeting. This was an emergency. Admiral Zixtar, a tall figure with metallic scales that caught the light, stood at the center of the room. His 4 arms moved in perfect harmony as he activated the holographic display. Esteemed colleagues, he began, his translator converting his native clicks and whistles into the common galactic language. I have called this meeting to discuss a growing concern: humans. Images of Earth appeared above him. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It looked peaceful from space. Then the images changed to show human cities, factories, and most concerning of all, weapons. This species has only just begun reaching for the stars, Zixtar continued. Their technology is primitive by our standards, but their rate of advancement is unlike anything we have seen before. Ambassador Vila of the Arthun Collective narrowed her 6 eyes. Many species advance quickly when they first discover spaceflight. Why are these humans different? Zixtar tapped a control, and the display showed scenes from human history. Wars, so many wars. They have fought more wars among themselves in a millennium than our species combined have in 50,000 years, he said. Their technology may be simple, but their weapons are not. They developed nuclear bombs before they had computers. They created guided missiles before they cured many of their own diseases. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Many had lived through the Great Galactic War 10,000 years ago. None wished to see such destruction again. What do you suggest, Admiral? Asked the oldest member of the council, a being of pure energy contained in a special suit. We cannot destroy a developing species. That would violate our most sacred laws. Zixtar bowed his head. I do not suggest destruction, Elder Karn, but I do suggest containment. Now the room filled with noise as everyone began speaking at once. Containment had only been used 3 times in galactic history, and each case had been controversial. Silence, called Ambassador Eloria of the Fotheri Conclave. Her voice, though soft, carried power that made everyone stop. The Fotheri were known for their wisdom and foresight. Eloria floated to the center of the room, her translucent body pulsing with light. I have studied the humans extensively. Their potential for violence is matched only by their capacity for kindness. They are a paradox. But in their current state, with their warlike tendencies, they pose a risk not only to us, but to themselves if they join the galactic community too soon. She paused, looking at each council member. I propose a solution. We contain them now, before they become a problem. Their system is isolated enough. We can establish a perimeter, redirect all traffic, and simply let the humans sleep in their little corner of the galaxy. For how long? Asked a representative from the silicon-based life forms. Until they mature, Eloria answered. A century, perhaps 2. Time for them to move past their violent tendencies. Admiral Zixtar nodded in agreement. The technology exists. We can create a field around their solar system that will disable any ship trying to leave and redirect any ship approaching. They would never know they were being contained. And if they detect the field? Asked Elder Karn. Their sensors are not advanced enough, Zixtar assured. By the time they might detect it, they will hopefully have evolved beyond the need for containment. The council debated for hours. Some argued for open contact, believing humans could be guided. Others wanted stricter measures, fearing what humans might become. In the end, Ambassador Eloria's proposal won the majority vote. The Galactic Council would establish a containment field around the human solar system. Earth would be isolated, cut off from the galactic community without ever knowing it existed. As the council members filed out of the hall, Admiral Zixtar approached Eloria. Do you really believe they will outgrow their violent nature? Eloria's light dimmed slightly. I hope so, Admiral. For all our sakes. Because if they don't, And if they ever break free from our containment, may the stars help us all. Operation Sandman began the next day. Jack Miller sighed as another deep space transmission failed. He removed his headset and rubbed his tired eyes. The clock on the wall of NASA's communication center showed 3:42 a.m. He had been at it for nearly 12 hours straight. No response again. Asked Kevin, his colleague at the next station. Nothing, Jack replied, just like the last 100 times. He pulled up the data on his screen. That makes 37 years of silence. 37 years of sending signals into space and getting nothing back. Jack had joined NASA fresh out of college, full of dreams about making contact with alien life. Now, at 59, those dreams felt childish. Every probe they sent past a certain point in space disappeared. Every signal they broadcast beyond the outer planets went unanswered. It was as if the universe had put up a "Do Not Disturb" sign around Earth. Across the country, in a classified naval facility, Commander Samantha Powell reviewed a very different set of data. The gravitational readings from the edge of the solar system didn't make sense. There were anomalies that couldn't be explained by any natural phenomenon. She collected her files and walked down the long corridor to Admiral Richard Holt's office. After a quick knock, she entered. "You wanted to see these right away, sir," she said, placing the folder on his desk. Admiral Holt, a man with gray hair and serious eyes, opened the folder and studied the charts. "It's getting worse, isn't it?" "Yes, sir. The anomalies are increasing. Whatever is out there, it's growing." Holt looked up at her. "Your assessment, Commander." Samantha took a deep breath. She had been working on this project for 5 years and had come to only one conclusion. "Someone's out there," she told him plainly. "And they're building something around us." The Admiral nodded slowly. "That matches our other intelligence. Keep this quiet for now." Meanwhile, at Berkeley University, Professor Alan Wright sat alone in his office. Papers covered every surface, filled with calculations and theories. His computer showed simulations of spacecraft trajectories, all ending at the same mysterious boundary. Alan had once been respected in the scientific community, but that was before he started talking about aliens. Now, his colleagues avoided him in the hallways. Students whispered about the crazy professor who believed Earth was trapped. He finished typing his latest paper and hit send. The Great Filter, evidence of deliberate isolation of Earth by advanced extraterrestrial civilization. The journal would probably reject it, like all the others had. His phone rang. The caller ID showed a blocked number. "Professor Wright," said a woman's voice when he answered. "My name is Linda. I represent certain interests in the government. We've been reading your work." Alan sat up straight. "Which part?" "All of it. Your theories about the gravitational anomalies, the signal dead zones, the missing probes. We think you're onto something." A week later, Alan found himself in a windowless room at the Pentagon. Charts and photos covered the walls. People in military uniforms and suits moved around with purpose. Admiral Holt introduced himself and Commander Powell. "Professor, we've been monitoring the situation for decades. Something is happening at the edge of our solar system, and we need your help to figure out what." Samantha pulled up a 3D model on a large screen. "Our best guess is some kind of energy field surrounding the entire solar system. It's like a bubble, keeping us in and everyone else out." Alan stared at the model. It matched his theories perfectly. "How long has it been there?" "We started detecting subtle signs about 40 years ago," Holt said. "It's become more noticeable as our technology improved." 40 years, Alan whispered. "Right after we landed on the moon. Right after we started broadcasting our presence more actively into space." Jack Miller, still at his station in NASA, didn't know about these classified discussions. He didn't know that Professor Wright had been right all along, or that Commander Powell was mapping the invisible cage around Earth. All Jack knew was that another transmission had failed, and he was getting too old for night shifts. He shut down his equipment and grabbed his coat. "Calling it a night?" Kevin asked. "Yeah," Jack replied. "Maybe someday someone will answer. But I'm not holding my breath." Little did he know that beyond the barrier, the galaxy was wide awake and watching. Caleb Dixon checked the navigation screens of his ship, the Pathfinder, one more time. The small freighter wasn't fancy, but it was fast and reliable. As the captain of one of the first commercial vessels of the Earth Expansion Initiative, Caleb had made dozens of trips to the mining stations on Mars and the research bases on Europa. But today was different. Today, he was going farther. "We're approaching the boundary zone," said Olivia Grant from the co-pilot's seat. Her eyes were fixed on the readouts. "Standard protocol says we turn back now." Caleb nodded but didn't change course. "Standard protocol has kept us boxed in for 40 years. There's a reason for those limits," Olivia reminded him. She had joined his crew 6 months ago, fresh from the Space Academy. By the book, that was Olivia. Every ship that's gone past the safe zone has disappeared. "Maybe they found something worth not coming back for," Caleb replied with a half-smile. He had been flying ships since before Olivia was born. At 45, he was considered an old man in the space business. Too old to follow rules that made no sense. The other 3 crew members entered the bridge. Bob Chen, the engineer, looked worried. "Captain, are we really doing this?" "We are," Caleb confirmed. 40 years of silence is enough. Either there's nothing out there, or there's something they don't want us to find. Maria Diaz, the ship's doctor, crossed her arms. "And if we disappear like all the others, then at least we'll know why," Caleb said simply. The 5th crew member, Kyle Roberts, just grinned. The young security officer had joined specifically for this mission. "Let's make history, Captain." Caleb pushed the engines to full power. The Pathfinder shot forward, crossing the invisible line that no Earth ship had returned from. For a few minutes, nothing happened. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Maybe the stories were wrong. Maybe there was nothing special about this region of space. Then the sensors went crazy. Energy spike. Bob called out. Massive readings all around us. Outside the viewports, space itself seemed to ripple. A strange glow surrounded the ship, pulsing with colors that hurt the eyes. "Turn back," Olivia urged. "We need to turn back now." Caleb tried to reverse course, but the controls were sluggish. Something's interfering with the ship's systems. The glow intensified. Alarms blared throughout the Pathfinder as systems began to fail one by one. "We're being pulled in some direction," Bob reported. "I can't tell which way. Our navigation is completely confused." Caleb fought with the controls, trying to stabilize the ship. "Hold on, this might get rough." The Pathfinder shuddered violently. For a moment, everything went black. When the lights came back on, the view outside had changed. They were somewhere else entirely. And they weren't alone. A massive ship hung in space before them. It was like nothing they had ever seen. Sleek and silvery, with strange patterns that seemed to glow from within. It dwarfed the Pathfinder, making their vessel look like a toy. "Is that?" Maria whispered. "An alien ship." Kyle finished for her. "An actual alien ship." Before they could react, a beam of light connected the 2 vessels. The Pathfinder's systems shut down completely. "We're being boarded," Caleb realized as a circular section of the wall began to glow. The crew huddled together as the metal melted away, forming a perfect doorway. Through it stepped a tall figure. It had 4 arms, metallic scales for skin, and eyes that glowed with an inner light. The alien looked at each human in turn, its gaze lingering on Caleb. When it spoke, a device on its chest translated its clicks and whistles into English. "Impossible," it said, its voice filled with shock. The barrier was perfect. No human vessel should have been able to pass through. Caleb stepped forward, heart pounding but voice steady. "My name is Captain Caleb Dixon of the Earth vessel Pathfinder. Who are you, and what barrier are you talking about?" The alien's eyes narrowed. I am Commander Krasfull of the Meridian Empire. And you, Captain Dixon, have just complicated galactic politics in ways you cannot imagine. Back on the Meridian ship, Admiral Zixtar received the urgent message. After 40 years of containment, the humans had broken through. The plan had failed. The sleeping giant was beginning to wake up. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Despite government attempts to control the information, video footage from the Pathfinder's encounter leaked online. People everywhere watched in amazement as Commander Krasfull revealed the truth to Captain Dixon and his crew. Humans had been contained, kept isolated from the rest of the galaxy for 40 years. In Washington, D.C., the president addressed the nation from the Oval Office. His face was grim as he confirmed what many already knew. My fellow Americans, citizens of Earth, today we face the most significant revelation in human history. We are not alone in the universe, and more importantly, we have been deliberately isolated. Protests erupted in major cities. Some people were angry, others afraid. Religious leaders called for calm, while scientists demanded access to alien technology. Military forces around the world went on high alert. In a secure underground facility, General Laura Bennett stood before the newly formed United Earth Defense Council. Representatives from every major nation watched as she laid out what they knew. The containment field surrounds our entire solar system, she explained, pointing to the holographic display. It's been there for 40 years. Every probe, every signal we sent out, they blocked it all. Why? Asked the Chinese representative. Why contain us? According to the information Captain Dixon sent back, they feared us, General Bennett replied. They saw our wars, our weapons, and decided we were too dangerous to join the galactic community. The room fell silent as this sank in. They've had a 40-year head start, she continued, but they've also given us 40 years to prepare without knowing it. We've been developing our technology, building our industry, training our people, all while they thought we were safely contained. The Russian representative leaned forward. What do you propose, General? United action, Bennett said firmly. For the first time in human history, we have a common purpose, a common other. We need to pool our resources, our knowledge, our military capabilities. We need to be ready. Across the globe, old enemies set aside their differences. China and America began sharing technology. Russia and Europe coordinated defense strategies. The Middle East and Africa contributed resources and manpower. Humanity was uniting like never before. Meanwhile, billions of light years away, Caleb Dixon and Olivia Grant stood before the Galactic Council. The 12 representatives of the elder species looked down at them from high seats, like judges at a trial. These humans have violated the containment protocol, Admiral Zixtar stated. Their presence here proves our measures were insufficient. Ambassador Eloria floated forward, her translucent body glowing softly. Perhaps we should ask them how they broke through our barrier. All eyes turned to the humans. Caleb cleared his throat. We didn't do anything special, he explained. We just pushed our engines harder, went further than the safe zone. Something in our ship's design must have let us pass through. Murmurs spread through the council chamber. Olivia stepped forward. Why did you contain us? She asked boldly. What gave you the right? Elder Karn's energy form pulsed with what might have been anger. We did not need rights. We acted in the interest of galactic security. You acted out of fear, Olivia countered. The council erupted in outrage, but Ambassador Eloria raised her hands for silence. There is more to this situation than you know, she told the humans. Your species was not contained merely out of fear. There is an ancient prophecy, one that speaks of a race that will either save the galaxy or destroy it. Many believe humans are that race. Caleb and Olivia exchanged surprised looks. A prophecy? Caleb asked skeptically. You locked us away because of some old story. Not just a story, Zixtar said. The prophecy has proven accurate in all its previous predictions. It speaks of a young species, born in violence but capable of great compassion, who will face the darkness when it comes. What darkness? Olivia asked. Before anyone could answer, alarms sounded throughout the council chamber. A messenger rushed in, clearly distressed. "Forgive the interruption," the messenger said, "but we've received word. The outer colonies of the Ferox system are under attack. The ships, they match no known design." The council members looked at each other in fear. Elder Karn turned to Ambassador Eloria. "It's happening," he said, just as the prophecy foretold. The darkness has arrived. Back on Earth, humanity prepared for a war they barely understood, unaware they might be the galaxy's last hope. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with heated debate. Some members stood at their podiums, shouting over one another. Others huddled in small groups, whispering urgently. The crisis of human containment had divided them deeply. "We must act now," insisted a representative from the Arthon Collective. "Send our fleet to Earth and establish control before they become a greater threat." Admiral Zixtar shook his head. "Military action against Earth would only confirm their worst fears about us. We would create the very enemy we sought to prevent." Ambassador Eloria floated in the center of the chamber, her light pulsing with concern. "We chose to let them sleep, and in doing so, we may have created exactly what we feared. The humans are awake now, and they are angry." Back on Earth, in a sprawling complex beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Nathan Harris studied the alien technology recovered from skirmishes at the edge of the solar system. His team had been working day and night for months, trying to understand how the containment field worked. "This material," he said to General Bennett, pointing to a strange metal that seemed to shift colors under different lights. "It manipulates space-time in ways we've only theorized about." General Bennett looked at the complex equations on the screens around them. "Can we use it?" Dr. Harris smiled for the first time in weeks. "We already are. I believe we've developed a propulsion system that can bypass their containment field." In orbit above Earth, construction crews worked tirelessly on humanity's first battle fleet. Ships that would have once seemed like science fiction were now taking shape, incorporating the new technologies developed by Dr. Harris's team. Admiral Richard Holt stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching as systems came online. The ship had been named Defiance, a statement of humanity's intentions. "Status report," he ordered. "Engines at 95% efficiency." "Admiral," his second-in-command reported. "Defensive systems online. Weapons charging." Holt nodded with satisfaction. "Begin final preparations. We launch in 24 hours." The next day, Earth held its breath as the Defiance and its escort vessels approached the edge of the solar system. Scientists, military personnel, and ordinary citizens watched live feeds as the ships neared the invisible barrier that had contained humanity for so long. Dr. Harris stood beside General Bennett in mission control, fingers crossed. "Approaching barrier now," came Admiral Holt's voice over the comms. There was a moment of tense silence, then a flash of light as the ships activated their new drives. The screens briefly went static. "We're through," Admiral Holt announced when communications returned. "The bypass worked. We are officially outside the solar system." Cheers erupted across the globe. Humanity had broken free. The first human battle fleet established a military outpost on a moon in Alpha Centauri, the nearest star system. Admiral Holt sent a simple message back to Earth: "The stars are ours." This message was intercepted by Galactic Council monitoring stations. Within hours, every member of the Council knew that humans had breached containment on a massive scale. "This changes everything," Elder Karn declared. "They have military vessels outside their solar system now." "What did you expect?" asked Caleb Dixon, who along with Olivia Grant had been granted observer status in the Council. "You cage an animal, it will eventually break free." "Humans are not animals," objected Zixtar. "Neither are we prisoners," Olivia responded firmly. "All we want is the freedom to explore, to learn, to grow." the same as any intelligent species. Some council members seemed moved by her words, but others remained skeptical. Then a messenger rushed into the chamber, face pale with alarm. "The Void Horde has taken 3 more systems," the messenger reported. "Our defensive fleets were overwhelmed. Millions are dead or displaced." The council fell silent. The outer threat was growing faster than anyone had anticipated. Ambassador Eloria turned to her fellow council members. "While we debate what to do about the humans, a greater danger grows. Perhaps we should consider the possibility that the prophecy is true. Perhaps the humans awoke just when the galaxy needed them most." Zixtar, once the strongest advocate for human containment, looked thoughtful. "The humans have shown remarkable adaptability and resourcefulness. Their warlike history, which we once feared, might now be their greatest asset." Elder Karn's energy form dimmed slightly, a sign of reluctant agreement. "What are you suggesting, Admiral?" Zixtar straightened to his full height. "I am suggesting that instead of fighting the humans, we should be allying with them." Back on the Defiance, Admiral Holt received a transmission from an unexpected source. The meeting took place on neutral ground, an ancient space station at the edge of the Alpha Centauri system. Admiral Holt led a small delegation from Earth, including General Bennett and Dr. Harris. They stood tall, refusing to show any sign of intimidation as the alien representatives entered the chamber. Admiral Zixtar stepped forward, his metallic scales gleaming under the station's lights. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, Admiral Holt. I'm curious to hear what the people who imprisoned us have to say," Holt replied coolly. Zixtar didn't flinch at the accusation. "We face a threat greater than any of our previous disagreements. The Void Horde has emerged from the dark space between galaxies. They are consuming worlds faster than we can evacuate them." General Bennett crossed her arms. "And this concerns Earth how, exactly?" "Because they will reach your systems eventually," Zixtar said. "And when they do, the containment field that once imprisoned you will not stop them. Nothing we have tried has stopped them." Dr. Harris stepped closer to examine the holographic images Zixtar projected. The Void Horde ships were unlike anything humans had seen. Organic-looking vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "What do they want?" Dr. Harris asked. "Resources, planets, life itself," Zixtar answered grimly. "They do not communicate. They do not negotiate. They only consume." Admiral Holt's expression remained skeptical. "You've been fighting them for months. Your technology is far beyond ours. Why come to us now?" Zixtar looked directly at Holt. "Because we feared you would be the destroyers," he said. "We never considered you might be the saviors we needed." He activated another hologram showing Galactic Council forces retreating from world after world. "Our ships are advanced, yes, but we have lived in peace for too long. We've forgotten how to fight wars. Humans, you never forgot." The meeting lasted for hours. By the end, a tentative alliance had formed. Earth would share its military strategies and combat experience. The Council would share advanced technology and star charts. Together, they would face the Void Horde. News of the alliance spread quickly across the galaxy. Some species welcomed human involvement. Others protested, still fearing the violent tendencies that had led to Earth's containment in the first place. On a distant mining colony, the Void Horde struck again. The few survivors described living ships that darkened the sky, strange creatures that flowed like liquid between solid forms, and weapons that seemed to feed on energy. Council defensive fleets arrived too late. As had happened dozens of times before, they found only ruins. But this time was different. A small human scout ship had been nearby, observing Council military tactics as part of the new alliance. Captain Frank Rivera had recorded everything. Back on Earth, military leaders studied the footage intently. General Bennett called an emergency meeting with the United Earth Defense Council. "The Council races are fighting like it's a peacekeeping mission," she explained. "They're trying to minimize damage, protect civilians, establish safe corridors. All admirable goals, but useless against an enemy that shows no mercy, finished the Japanese representative. General Bennett nodded. Exactly. We need to change the approach. We need to fight to win. Earth's factories switched to war production. The knowledge shared by the Council allowed for rapid advancements in human technology. New weapons were designed specifically to combat the Void Horde's unique biology and technology. Admiral Holt oversaw the training of mixed human-alien crews. At first, there was tension and mistrust. The aliens found human tactics shocking, even barbaric. Humans found alien caution frustrating. But slowly, they began to learn from each other. On the diplomatic front, Caleb Dixon and Olivia Grant worked to strengthen the alliance. They traveled to dozens of worlds, sharing Earth's history of overcoming adversity, of fighting against seemingly impossible odds. We've been fighting ourselves for thousands of years, Caleb told the Council during one crucial session. We've made terrible mistakes, caused great suffering. But we've also learned. We've learned how to survive, how to adapt, how to win even when victory seems impossible. The message spread. The humans were awake, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the darkness between stars, the Void Horde sensed a change. For the first time, they encountered resistance that didn't retreat, tactics they couldn't predict, weapons designed specifically to harm them. The easy conquest they had expected suddenly became a war. Commander Samantha Powell stood before a mixed team of humans and aliens in the briefing room of the Council battleship Stellar Dawn. The 20 soldiers watched her with a mixture of curiosity and respect. This was the first Joint Special Forces team in galactic history. Our mission is simple but dangerous, she explained, pointing to the holographic display of a massive, organic-looking vessel. We will infiltrate this Void Horde command ship, gather intelligence on their weaknesses, and, if possible, disrupt their communications network. A tall Meridian warrior raised one of his 4 hands. The Void Horde ships absorb energy weapons. How will we break through their hull? Samantha smiled slightly. Sometimes old methods work best. We're going mechanical. She held up what looked like a simple metal cylinder. Thermite charges. Burns at over 4,000 degrees. No energy signature for them to absorb. The aliens looked impressed. This was the human advantage. Thinking outside established patterns, using simple solutions for complex problems. As the Special Forces team prepared for their mission, back on Earth, Dr. Harris worked closely with alien scientists to combine human military strategy with advanced Council technology. Their ships are partially organic, Dr. Harris explained to his team. They feel pain. We can use that. Together, they created new hybrid weapon systems, missiles that carried both explosive payloads and biological agents designed to attack the living components of Void Horde ships. When the prototypes were ready, Admiral Holt organized a demonstration for the Council representatives. The test target was a piece of captured Void Horde hull material kept in a secure facility. The Council members watched in amazement as the new weapons tore through the previously resistant material. Some looked uncomfortable with the brutality of the approach, but none could deny its effectiveness. This is why we needed humans, Ambassador Eloria said quietly to Admiral Zixtar. We had forgotten that sometimes survival requires unpleasant methods. Zixtar nodded grimly. Let us hope we have not unleashed something worse than the Void Horde. On the diplomatic front, Caleb Dixon traveled from world to world, building a coalition for the war effort. He had become the face of humanity to many alien species, his straightforward manner winning over even skeptical allies. We don't ask you to fight like humans, he told the representatives of the Fothari Conclave. We ask only that you let us fight alongside you, in our way. Olivia Grant, meanwhile, worked tirelessly at the Galactic Council, turning her legal background to use in drafting the first true military alliance in Council history. It wasn't easy. Many species still feared what humans might become after the war. We understand your concerns, she assured them during one tense session. That's why we agreed to oversight committees and mutual defense pacts. This alliance isn't just about defeating the Void Horde. It's about building a better galaxy afterward. As these efforts continued, Commander Powell's Special Forces team successfully infiltrated the Void Horde command ship. They fought their way through corridors filled with strange, shifting creatures. 3 team members were lost, but the rest reached their target, the central control node. What they discovered changed everything. The Void Horde wasn't a random invader. They were fleeing something even worse, consuming worlds to fuel their escape from a darkness at the edge of the universe. More importantly, the team discovered the Horde's primary weakness. Their ships were all connected through a psychic network. Disrupt the network, and their coordinated attacks would fall apart. Powell transmitted this crucial intelligence just before her team was discovered. Their escape was a desperate fight through closing corridors and waves of enemies. When they finally reached their extraction point, only Powell and 4 others remained, but they had what they needed, the key to fighting the Void Horde effectively. The first major test of this knowledge came at Meridian Prime, the homeworld of Admiral Zixtar's species. A massive Void Horde fleet approached the heavily populated planet, intent on consuming its resources. Admiral Holt led the combined defense fleet, implementing unorthodox tactics that shocked both allies and enemies. Rather than forming a defensive perimeter as Council forces traditionally did, Holt split his forces into small, aggressive units that targeted specific vulnerabilities in the Horde's formation. Hit and fade, he ordered over the comms. Don't give them time to adapt. Don't be where they expect you to be. The battle raged for 3 days. At several points, defeat seemed certain. But the human approaches to warfare, unpredictable, adaptable, willing to sacrifice tactical positions for strategic advantage, gradually turned the tide. The combined fleet gathered near the galactic core. Ships from 100 different worlds formed the largest armada ever assembled. At the center were the human vessels, their designs a strange mix of Earth ingenuity and alien technology. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Holt reviewed the battle plans one last time. Intelligence from multiple sources confirmed that the Void Horde had established its main nest at the galactic core, feeding on the enormous energy there. This is it, he told his officers. Everything we've learned, everything we've built, has led to this moment. Back on Earth, General Bennett coordinated the massive operation from a command center built deep under the Rocky Mountains. Holographic displays showed the positions of Allied forces and the known locations of Void Horde vessels. All fleet groups report ready, her aide informed her. Bennett nodded grimly. Then it's time to end this. Give the signal. Across the vast distances of space, thousands of ships began to move in perfect coordination. It was a dance of destruction, choreographed by human military minds and executed with alien precision. As the fleet approached the core, the full might of the Void Horde rose to meet them. Living ships, dark as the space between stars, swarmed toward the Allied forces. There were more of them than anyone had expected. Stay calm, Admiral Holt broadcast to all ships. Remember the plan. Remember your training. The first wave hit with devastating force. Dozens of Allied ships were destroyed in moments. The Void Horde adapted quickly to the tactics that had worked at Meridian Prime, absorbing energy attacks and countering the formation changes. In the command center, General Bennett watched with growing concern as casualties mounted. They've learned, she murmured. They'd gotten smarter. That's when Caleb Dixon and Olivia Grant arrived, bringing with them Professor Alan Wright, who had joined the Military Science Division. The professor had been working on a theory since learning about the Void Horde's psychic network. "General," he said, breathless from rushing, "I think I know how to beat them, but it will cost us." He explained his plan quickly, a desperate gambit based on his understanding of both human and alien technology. They would turn the containment field technology that had once imprisoned Earth into a weapon against the Void Horde. It would generate a massive energy pulse, he explained, tuned specifically to disrupt their psychic network. But the ship carrying the device would be at the center of the pulse. A suicide mission, General Bennett said quietly. A necessary sacrifice, Wright corrected. The general made the hardest decision of her life. She gave the order, and the plan was transmitted to Admiral Holt at the front lines. Holt called for volunteers. He needed a small, fast ship to carry the device into the heart of the Void Horde fleet. Dozens stepped forward immediately. The mission fell to Captain Frank Rivera and his scout ship, the Swift Arrow. It was the fastest vessel in the human fleet, with just enough room for the hastily assembled device. "It's been an honor," Rivera said simply as he received his orders. As the main fleet engaged the Void Horde in a massive diversionary attack, the Swift Arrow slipped through the chaos. Rivera piloted with uncanny skill, dodging enemy ships and energy blasts. Approaching target coordinates, he reported calmly. "Device is primed and ready." Back on the Defiance, Admiral Holt gave the order for all Allied ships to activate their shields at maximum power. "Good luck, Frank," he said. "And thank you." Rivera's voice came through clearly one last time. "For Earth and for all worlds." The Swift Arrow reached the center of the Void Horde fleet. Rivera activated the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a pulse of energy unlike anything seen before expanded outward from the small ship. It passed through the Void Horde vessels like a ripple through water. The effect was immediate and devastating. The psychic network that bound the Horde together shattered. Their coordinated attack fell into chaos. Ship turned against ship, creature against creature, as their shared consciousness collapsed. The Allied fleet pressed the advantage. Without their hive mind to guide them, the Void Horde couldn't adapt or coordinate. One by one, their ships were destroyed or pulled back into the darkness between galaxies. When it was over, Admiral Holt stood before the Galactic Council. The chamber was filled beyond capacity. Representatives from every Allied world gathered to mark the historic moment. Admiral Zixtar stepped forward to address the assembly. "We said, let the humans sleep. We feared what they might become. In our arrogance, we nearly doomed us all. The humans have proven not to be the monsters we feared, but the allies we needed. Our mistake wasn't containing them. It was underestimate.